All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's podcast, Pivot to Your Purpose. I have an amazing guest on tonight, and listen, backstage, I was afforded the opportunity just to hear that. Listen, I am very fortunate to have Auntie Bev here with me on tonight. So make sure that you go ahead, like, share, and tag your friends and your family in this podcast because we're going to talk about pivoting to your purpose through the power of our words. And Auntie Bev is well known all over the internet and about how she just helped us basically how to pronounce words, how to get an understanding of what words mean. So we're just going to jump right in. Auntie Bev, just introduce yourself to the audience on tonight.
Well, I don't know what to say. You've done a great job here. Okay, so yes, I am. I go by the persona of Auntie Bev. My real name is Beverly Mahone Gibbs, and I spent a number of years in radio and television news as a journalist, and decided to pivot. I didn't decide to pivot. My grandson thought I should pivot into the world of the internet where I could continue to use my communication skills to
Okay.
help others become the best version of themselves when it comes to being able to articulate their thoughts and ideas.
Wow. So it actually was your grandson that led you into this phase of social media. So it's amazing how those individuals, especially the millennials, the Gen Zs, and all the other generations, help push maybe the baby boomers. I don't know all the generation correct terminology, so I don't want to start saying the different ones, but it's amazing how we can help push our I would say mature adults into the area of social media. So we do have an individual who checked in, Sherry Dawson Williams. She said, "Hello, everyone." Hello, Sherry. Thank you so much for tuning in on tonight. We're excited to have you. So, Auntie Bev, how did you get your start? How did you get your start?
Well, it was really by accident. Like I said, I do credit my grandson with uh, showing me how to do it because I was basically one of those lurkers who would go on social media and I look at different posts and either I'd like them or I wouldn't comment too much unless I actually knew the person. So
Right,
I mean, really knew the person. But I
right.
found that there was a lot of time being wasted looking at videos. And I thought, this is crazy. But in 2020, I was working a full time job and
Okay.
COVID hit and I lost my job. So
Wow.
I had to think about, well, what am I going to do to supplement this income? Because there were no plans at the time to bring anybody back because they were trying to figure out what they were going to do and how they were going to do it.
Right.
So I was sitting in my home office and
Mm-hmm.
trying to just kind of I was just kind of sitting and trying to figure it out. And my grandson happened to be over at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, Grandma, I think you should just go on TikTok and teach my generation how to communicate better. And I just laughed. I thought, no, there is no way. I've been on
Right.
TikTok. That's a waste of space. I'm not doing
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
But he convinced me. He
Mm-hmm.
convinced me, and I reluctantly did it. And uh, yeah, I mean, that's just how it happened. I threw out a couple of words, and to my surprise, they didn't know the word. The first word I ever introduced was cognizant. And I just
Mm.
assumed everybody knew cognizant. It means to be aware of.
Right.
People
Right.
don't say it a lot, but it's cognizant. I'm cognizant of the fact.
Right.
And people were saying, "Oh, thank you. I didn't know that word. I can use that word in my essay, or I can say it, when I'm in a meeting." And I was
Right.
thinking, really? You don't know this word? And then my grandson said, "But Grandma, you'd be surprised that, the vocabulary is people just don't know." So that is the backstory of how
Wow.
I ended up on TikTok.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing though. That's amazing. You were in a situation in 2020 because of COVID, you lost your job, but your grandson actually helped you pivot to the next phase of your purpose.
He did.
So it's just amazing how the power in his words, Grandma, just get out here and teach my generation these different terms. And look how you have just flourished and blew up. I'm sure you never would have thought just getting on TikTok, teaching someone the definition of the words will just make you an influencer.
No, never. Never in a million years. And I will tell you this is initially the kids were brutal. Oh, when I tell you some of the comments,
Ooh,
why are you here? You need to be on Facebook with all those other old people over there. They were brutal. So, for
oh,
as many positive comments I received kids that were really pushing back. I think because they didn't really, I guess, they didn't really grasp what I was doing and how I was trying to help them. So,
right.
understanding that, Gerard, that's my grandson, we sat down one day and he said, Grandma, he
Mhm.
said, just talk to them. He said,
Right.
how you do it. Just do that, because I
Mhm.
was trying to be a little more formal. And he said, no, no. He said, that's not what they like. Just talk to them. Just like you talk to me. Just, be You didn't say sassy, but that's the
Right.
interpretation.
Right. Right.
And I did. I mean, I just started really just not caring. You can say whatever you want. I'll come back at you just like you come at me.
Right.
And I think over time, those young people started to appreciate that they were being entertained, but they were also being educated. And they didn't even understand that they were being educated because they got so
Mm,
wrapped up in the entertainment of what Auntie Bev was saying. So that
right.
turned out to be a blessing.
Well, that's good stuff. Good stuff. And we do have additional comment here. Dashika Bethune is on. She said, "Hello, hello, Dashika. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight to the Pivot to Your Purpose podcast. And as I stated, make sure that you go ahead and like and share this podcast. We're having a great conversation with Auntie Bev. I'm sure you all have seen her on social media. And when I first saw you, Auntie Bev, you were trending. You had went actually to a scene of a shooting.
Yeah, that was
I
the
was
yeah.
like, is this lady outside reporting outside of a shooting? And I forgot the actual fancy term, but the term meaning was being nosy, being
Yes,
somewhere where you
right.
can't be. I was like, OMG. And you can hear the gunshots going in the background. How
That's
did
what
you end
people
up in that
said.
situation?
The word was interloper.
That's
Don't
right.
be an interloper. Don't be a busybody all up in people's business. That was the word. And quidnunc. Those were the two words. And that was purely by accident. What happened was I was out and I was somewhere and someone said, "Did you hear about this shooting?" And I think I was in some grocery store parking lot. I can't remember now, but and I
Mhm.
said, "No, do you know where it is?" And they told me, and I said, "Okay, well, that's not my neighborhood. Let me see if I can go there." And as I'm driving, I'm thinking, you know what? Why are you doing this? You don't have any business over here. You're being a quidnuck. That's the word that came to mind. So I
Uh-huh.
said, "Oh, okay." Now I have been a journalist, so I know what it's like to go out in the field and report. I
Right.
mean, I know where to kind of the parameters, et cetera, et cetera. So I get out there. Police have the yellow tape up. The reporters are trying to tell me that a little child was killed, and so I'm just thinking, but here I am being a quidnuck. Why am I doing this? So I did the vocabulary and came home.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what basically garnished my attention. And I started following you off of that video. So we have another comment that came in. Mabel Williams is on. She said it. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mabel.
Hi,
Thank you so
Mabel.
much for tuning in. So go ahead again, everyone who's on, go ahead and like and share this podcast. So the power of one's words can help an individual pivot to their purpose. Can you talk about the power of our words and how it can actually and legitimately help an individual pivot to their purpose?
Well, there is a scripture in the Bible that says there is life and death in the power of the tongue, period.
Right,
You can speak life into your own self, and you can speak life into others, or
right.
you can speak negativity into your own life and
Mm-hmm.
speak negativity into others.
Right.
By um, by saying that, what I'm saying is you should always be conscious and mindful of the words you choose, even when you're just thinking to yourself, because that negative talk inside your head
Mm-hmm.
festers. And all of a
That's so
sudden,
true.
well, I can't do this. Let me give you an example. Yeah, I was reluctant to do the whole TikTok. I was. I kid you
Right,
not.
right,
But after I did it and I thought, you know what, I can really do this. I
right,
mean, forget these kids out here. I'll
right.
take them on. I'm old enough to be your grandmother, and you're not gonna talk to me like that. So I got it in my head that I could do it. Now, if I
Mhm.
had said constantly, no, I can't. Oh no, this is just terrible. Oh no, I'll never do it. It'll never amount to anything. It's a waste of my time. If I had continued to allow that negative talk inside my head,
Mhm.
then yeah, I would not be the Auntie Bev that I am today. So
Right.
you have to really think
Mhm.
about the words you choose. It, it's a matter of life and death. And I don't
Right.
mean death literally, but I
Right,
mean,
right.
you know what I mean.
I do not know exactly what you mean. And it's so important because as you stated, we can walk around here thinking so many negative things about ourselves. And if we're not careful, those things can come into fruition. They can materialize.
That's
And
right.
even though those kids were being brutal on TikTok, you did not allow those kids' words to define who Miss Beverly
Exactly.
is.
Exactly.
You knew the gift, you knew that your grandson, amongst many individuals, encouraged you to do this. So he saw what Grandma Bev can actually do, and basically the gift that you were going to provide to these millennials or to these younger generations. So I'm so glad that you took the leap. And guess what? Now you have so many followers. You have so many people who are learning how to improve their vocabulary every single day. And I like the scripture that you referenced, life and death is in the power of the tongue, because I am a firm believer in that we can speak a thing. And if we keep speaking it, it is going to manifest. So we have to really be careful of our words, because I'm sure you know the term self-fulfilling prophecy. It will come to pass, and other people who have spoke certain things upon people's lives, if they believe those words, then guess what, they will allow that individual words to actually materialize in their life, and they will start living out someone else's words that were spoken over them.
That's
What do
correct.
you think about that?
That is totally true. There is a book that I read 2 or 3 times a year. It's called As a Man Thinketh. And this book basically is, I guess, the commercial version of the Bible. And it
Right,
just talks about everything you take inside your head and you put it out there, either mentally, subconsciously, however, as you said, it will manifest itself. It will
right,
do it.
right,
I'll tell you this quick story here. When I first I think when I got my first 100,000 followers on TikTok. That was such a big, I mean, well, no, I think it was 50,000 because see, I couldn't even fathom that. I
right.
couldn't fathom 50,000 followers in no way, because I had been used to on Instagram, and I tell this story now. It's so funny. On Instagram, I had 900 followers for a long time. And the
Mhm.
majority of those people I knew in some form or fashion, or I knew somebody who knew them. So there was some connection. When I got the first 50,000 followers on TikTok, I thought, wow, that's incredible. I mean,
Mhm.
50,000 people think I have something of value. That blew
Wow.
my mind. It
Yes.
totally. So then I just forgot about it. And then the next big deal was when my one of my words went, well, see, I didn't understand what viral meant. So I've had to learn these things. But it
Mhm.
had 1 million views. And I thought,
Wow.
what? That's what I said. Wow. 1 million. This is crazy. And my grandson, it was a Friday night. My grandson and I were sitting in the living room and he was monitoring the word. And I wish I remembered the word now. But anyway, to make a long story short, he said, Grandma, by 8 o'clock, you're going to have 1 million views. Well, okay. Yeah, whatever you say. That's exactly whatever. But sure
Mhm.
enough, by 8 o'clock, 1 million people had seen that video. And
Wow.
that was just, I mean, so I don't get hung up on the numbers anymore. Well, I never really did. I don't
Mhm.
get hung up on them because I figure if I only have 10 followers and those 10 people, or at least 2 or 3 of those 10 people write me and say, you know what? I used that word you gave me in a meeting today, or I used that
Mhm.
word in an essay in my
Yeah.
class and I got an A.
Right.
My work is done. I,
That's right.
my work is done.
That's right. I love that, Auntie Bev. Let me read these comments
Okay.
and your work is done. I gotta elaborate on that. But let me read these comments here. Sherry Dawson Williams stated, wow, that is amazing, right? And also Tiffany
Hey,
stated, this
Tiffany.
is awesome. Absolutely, it's awesome. I definitely agree. Brianna stated, good evening, Brianna. Thank you so much for tuning in with us tonight. So, Auntie Bev, you mentioned about just a few individuals. If they use that one word and they make a change or something takes place in their life that's on a positive spectrum, you've done your job.
I've
Because I
done.
think it's so important that in this day and time, people are so caught up on numbers.
Yes.
They're so caught up on
Yes.
the quantity versus the quality. And I
Yeah.
think that's so important for people who may be embarking upon business or becoming social media influencers, whatever it may be. They may get discouraged based upon the number of individuals that may be following them, or the number of likes, or the number of thumbs up, or the care emoji. And my biggest thing is, don't get so wrapped up in those numbers.
Right.
You cannot allow that to define your impact. Your impact is when that one person comes, like you said, send you a message and say, Auntie Bev, thank you so much. And I think about the biblical scripture about when Jesus healed the 10 lepers. Guess what? That one came back and told him, thank you. That
Yes.
made the healing process even greater for Jesus to say, I've done my job.
I've done my
Because
job.
I think that's so important. So let me read these comments here that we have coming in. Auntie Bev. Miss Angie is on. Hello, Miss Angie. She said, two amazing ladies right there. Thank you so much for tuning in with us on tonight. Sherry stated, Auntie Bev was out in the neighborhood where a shooting took place. That was funny to me. She was teaching the word of the day. Yes, Sherry, we talked about that. She definitely did teach us the word of the day during that segment. Tiffany Quick stated quality is most important. I absolutely agree with you that on that, Tiffany. Dashika said I had to go follow Auntie Bev on TikTok. See there? Again, Auntie Bev, you're making amazing, amazing impact, and that is what matters. We're gonna go to a quick commercial and we'll be right back, okay? Hi, I'm Lenore Lassiter, career coach, keynote speaker, author, and life coach, here to show you how to land your dream job and boost your income exponentially. Over the last 10 plus years in corporate America, I've helped over 20,000 career professionals with resume writing, interview preparation, and landing their dream job. Let's be honest, a lot of us women deal with challenges from self sabotage, lack of confidence, imposter syndrome, and even PTSD from toxic work environments. How do I know? Because I have lived and breathed it myself. And now this is your opportunity to pivot in your career and in your life. Don't wait. Connect with me today at LenoraLassiter.com. All right. Thank you all so much for continuing to tune in. And Sherry stated, Lenora Dawson Lasser, your mom and dad are on. Hello, mom and dad. Thank you so much for tuning in. They're not on
Okay.
social.
Oh my God. Are they baby boomers?
They're baby boomers.
Okay. Well, hey there, y'all. What's up? What's up?
So they'll get the link via YouTube and they'll watch that way, but they're not on social media at all. My mom
Gotcha.
barely watched TV, Auntie Bev, but yeah, they're definitely baby boomers. So with that ad that just played, a lot of individuals do suffer from self-sabotage and lack of self-esteem, Auntie Bev. Can you speak to that and just give some pointers on how they can pivot from that particular mindset?
Well, this is something that I told my daughter and my grandson. Be mindful of the people you associate with
Mm,
because they can either build you up or tear you down
right.
or just keep you in a place where you're not going left or right, forward or backwards because they're not doing it either.
Right.
So I have a quote that I used to say to myself all the time is surround yourself with brilliance and then rise to
Mhm.
the occasion. With
Mm.
that being said, I say choose your friends carefully. Choose the people, whether you call them a friend or not, but choose the people you choose to associate with carefully.
Right.
Because once again, they can either speak life into you or they can
Right.
speak negativity into you.
Mm.
And once I start hearing the negativity, I kind of zone out. But I've had to learn that. This isn't
Right.
something you just all of a sudden just know. You don't
Right. Right.
just know. It
Right.
happens. It's a process. And I am so grateful for all of the naysayers who have been a part of my life because they kept reminding me that I can do this and I don't need you. Now that may be a selfish way to look at it from someone else's perspective,
Right. Right.
but I always use the negativity as fuel to light the fire under me, to keep me motivated and encouraged.
Mm.
And
Mm.
now I have to honestly say I have a very small circle
Right.
but I know that circle is one that I would never give up because they all bring something different to me as I do
Mhm.
to them.
Right.
And because if you have everybody's all the same, I don't know what good that is. I think you should have like minds, but I think in my situation,
Right.
every one of my closest friends brings something different to the table.
Right.
And that way we can all feast and enjoy each other's company and enjoy, just the time we have together.
I definitely agree with that. And Sherry Dawson Williams stated, yes, my circle is small as well. And I definitely agree with that about the circle because if your circle is not boosting you or pouring into you or helping you level up, then you need to check your circle. If those individuals that are surrounding you are negative and they are not really trying to really get the best out of life, then you need to me start shedding some things, start pruning some things, and cutting off some people and reevaluate where you currently are in your life, whether if these people are friends that you've been dealing with for the last 15 years. If they are not helping you propel you to the next level, my thing is, Auntie Bev, then they need to be cut off. I'm sorry,
That's
you have to cut them off because, like you stated, basically we heard the cliche: birds of the feather flock together.
together every day. Every day they do. Yes.
Every single day. So I think that even with, women, because that's my niche, helping women pivot to their purpose, they have to really reevaluate who they are surrounding themselves around. And if your circle, as I said, is not pouring into you, is not sharing knowledge with you, and they're withholding things from you that will um help you, those things that they are withholding that can actually help you get to the next level, then if they're not sharing, you need to basically cut them off and
You're right.
find individuals that will really lock their arms around you and help you reach the next level, whether it's in your life, whether it's in your business, or whether it's in your career. What do you say about that?
I agree. You said it. I mean, there's nothing else I can really add to it because
Yeah.
you said it so eloquently. So no, I have nothing to say to that. But I will say this: in all of my years, so I'm 66. I
Okay.
have one friend that I've had. Well, two friends. I'm sorry, two friends that I've had since kindergarten. They are
Mhm.
still a part of my life. All the, I mean, and I've had, people in and out, and we were girls for a season, but seasons change,
Yes, they do.
people grow.
Right.
I heard a sermon some years ago from Juanita Bynum. She talked about people being on your train, life like a train ride. And she was
Right.
saying that some people get off your train because it's their stop to get off. Some people get off because you have to kick them off. Some people stay on too long and you don't realize it and they don't realize it.
That's the
And then
truth.
some people just get off at the right time. And
Right.
then you still have the conductor who's staying on for the course. So that's
Mhm.
how I kind of look at my life and the people who have been a part of my life,
Mhm.
over the years. Some people I thought would be my girlfriends forever,
Right.
they're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it happens. But they gave me what I needed when I needed it. And I
During that
hope that
season.
I gave them the same thing.
Right. Right. I love that. And Auntie Bev, you got a question here. Sherry Dawson Williams said, Auntie Bev, do you cook homemade pound cakes?
I can't bake at all, honey. I'm sorry. That is not my forte. I cannot bake. Like I said to my husband, I was asking him, did he want me to bake something? It was a couple of weeks ago. I asked him, did you want me to bake something? And he was like, no.
Oh
Because
no.
I mean, I've never baked anything. So, I mean, at this stage of our marriage, is he going to trust me to bake something when he's never tasted anything I've ever baked? Do you
Right.
bake, Sherry?
Sherry, do you bake? Go ahead and type in your response. While she's
Mm,
typing her response, Roderick T. Williams is on, and he said, "Good evening, everyone." So,
hey,
Sherry,
Rocky.
Auntie Bev wants to know: Do you bake? So, go ahead and type in your response. Here's a response,
Oh, she
Auntie
doesn't
Bev.
even. Do I look like I bake? As followers say that all the time. Oh, you look like you can really cook in the kitchen.
Uh huh.
Okay, it's a hit or miss.
Yes, yes, yes.
But okay. But
Billy,
let me just
uh-huh.
talk a little bit about words because I get this question
Okay,
a lot.
okay.
People say, you know, you introduce a lot of words I've never heard of before, and I will probably never use in my vocabulary. Here's what I want to everybody to understand. Yes, 70% of the words I introduce you probably will never use.
Right.
However, you find the words that that you might say to someone in
Right.
some occasion, and then remember it, write it down, look it up, write the definition down, and then find a way to use it.
Mhm.
Not every vocabulary word you will use. I don't
Right.
use every word. There's a lot of words that I even introduce that I don't use, like
Mm,
absquatulate. Yeah, I
mm.
don't say that word in general conversation. I need to absquatulate. No, I don't. But
Right.
it's a word that Well, the young people on TikTok love that word. I'm not sure why, absquatulate. I think it's because it means to leave suddenly,
Right.
hurriedly. And so they like putting it in a sentence. Vacillate. Now, I have used vacillate. A lot of people wouldn't use that word. That's, having thinking about it, pondering what decision you're going to make. I have to vacillate over whether or not I will make a homemade pound cake or will I make a strawberry cheesecake. I'm
Right.
vacillating over this. But you
Right.
just have to decide what words you're going to use and then add them to your vocabulary. If you don't think you have any need for it, don't use it.
And shouldn't you consider your audience when you're using a certain level of words?
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree with that?
I agree with that. No, I agree with that. I think social media is a little tricky though
Okay.
because of what I do and my
Right.
platform. I do use those rarer words that you wouldn't otherwise hear. But
Gotcha.
yes, in person, you should be mindful of your word choices.
I got you. All right. Billy Crutcher is on. Good evening, Billy. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight. Sherry stated, I can bake chicken. So that's what she
I
can bake
can
on
too.
TV.
I can too. And I can grill like it's nobody's business. I can
Okay.
do that too.
All right. Awesome. She also stated, you said what now? Esquire? You what?
Absquatulate.
Can you spell that
Absquatulate.
for us?
Absquatulate. Absquatulate.
My word. So, Auntie Bev, we're almost at the time. Well, we are a little at the time, but I got two last questions for you. How did you get this wide, I would say, range or verse of vocabulary? How did you get to this point where pretty much you're a walking Webster dictionary?
Well, I wouldn't call me a walking Webster dictionary, but I will say reading. I have, you can't
Reading.
see it, but I have a bookshelf, two bookshelves full of books. That's
Okay.
one thing I've always loved to do is read. I love to
Okay.
read. And
Okay.
anytime I came across a word I didn't know, even as a child, I would write it down, look it up, put it in my little notebook, and then try to figure out a way to use it. And I always tried to impress my teachers with those words. I mean, I was a ham for that. I do recall that very distinctly. And so, yeah, so that's how I built my vocabulary. And then in conversations with other people,
Gotcha.
there's no shame. If somebody says a word like indomitable and you don't know what that means, ask them. I have asked. If I heard a word and I said, um, it was apotheosis.
Mm,
And I was like, I heard the sentence and I was like, I don't really want to ask because I don't want them to think I don't know. But then I said, well, I've got to know because I need to know if they used it correctly. So that made me question what the word
right.
was. And
Right.
then I thought, okay, so that was another word I added. So I continuously add words. I even do it today. I mean, I'm still writing words that I come across that I didn't know, or if I thought I'd heard it, I wasn't sure what the definition was. A lot of people use words incorrectly. So if you're going to have a conversation using those $10 words, make sure you understand the definition. That is
Right.
key.
Right. And last question here that came in, Sherry wants to know, how do I teach my 2-year-old to add words to his vocabulary?
That's well, I think everybody's different. So what would work for me may not work for you, but I would first of all say when you are speaking to children, you speak to them correctly. And that means enunciation and pronunciation and making sure that you're pronouncing the words correctly.
Right.
Because if you don't, what they're going to hear is what you said. I always emphasized the endings of my words when it came to both my daughter and my grandson. I wanted them to know there was a D at the end of read. I wanted
Hmm.
them to know frustrated. It ain't frustrating, it's frustrated. So Those are things, and it's not turned up. We ain't turned up here. It's turned
Up.
up. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm a stickler about that. I always
Mm-hmm.
have been. I still am. But that's what I would say is that, start by speaking correctly. You don't have to get all the big fancy words, but just so that they understand the correct pronunciation and enunciation.
I definitely agree with that. And what I obtain from you, if individuals want to improve their vocabulary and communication skills, reading is so important, it's imperative so they can improve their communication skills. Would you also suggest Toastmasters?
I was never a part of Toastmasters. When I was in high school and college, I was on our speech and debate team. And I loved it. I didn't know who knew back then what that would turn out to be. I mean, here's this little black girl on this little speech and debate team with all these little white kids, and but you couldn't tell me that I didn't know how to speak, right?
Right.
You couldn't tell me. Uh, but yes, if Toastmasters, as I understand, is a viable option, I
Hmm.
do believe it is. But let me say this about reading, Lenora.
Okay.
It's one thing to read, but it's so important to comprehend
That's
what you
true.
read. Because if you
Right.
don't understand what you read, all you have is a bunch of words. If I can't articulate back to you what that book I just read was about, then we can't have a conversation because I don't really know what I'm talking about. And if you've already read the book and I'm trying to tell you what the book was about, and I don't even know how to comprehend what I read, you're going to look and say, well, God, she's illiterate. Did she really read the book? What?
So,
So
how can a person improve their comprehension skills? Because that's something that people deal with. I mean,
people
I have to
deal
read something a couple of times to get it sometimes.
yes, well, you do, but you do. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. You're absolutely right. When I was working with a young man who's now in high school, I had him when he was in middle school, during that lull period,
Hmm.
I would we would take paragraphs of short stories, and I would have him read the paragraph, and then we'd go back and discuss the paragraph. What
Right.
happened in that paragraph?
Right.
What was the point of whatever happened in that paragraph? So that he would be able to regurgitate back to me what he read. Because so many times we just read, and we get to the end of the chapter, and then we go on to the next chapter. We don't really remember all that we read in the last chapter. We take the snippets of what we read because those were the things that were important to us.
Right.
But yeah, you got to comprehend it all.
Got it. Got it. Auntie Bev, this has been an amazing conversation. And again, I'm so excited that you said yes to my podcast and to be the first guest for season 4. I'm so grateful. And I'm so happy that each and every one of you tuned in on tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure of having each and every one of you here on tonight. So, Auntie Bev, we're going to end the show, but if you'll just hang on tight. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.